welcome back to another Double Dark video. I realize there's a big backlog of these. A lot of them are a lot of fun, a little wild and crazy, but still fun to share. So I'm gonna try to put up more of these and kind of care less about perfect editing and perfect commentary. So yeah, hope you enjoy. This is Black and Dark Rainbow, which means, if you have not seen it before, means the black suit and the rainbow suit are both critical. There's only one of each of the cards, which leads to some really stressful games. You have to be very efficient. That efficiency means that, on average, each clue we give has to get about 1.5 cards played. Anyway, let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. Piano Blue starts with 1s. Kimby sees a yellow card to clue. So this could be multi-1, yellow 2. And Piper plays the leftmost one, which is always a little weird, right? We'd expect this one to be the most important one to play. So just by convention, by playing the less important one, non-focused one, that should mean something extra. So Piano Blue chop moves. And this is actually good for tempo in this case, because now I can play this immediately. Fortunately, I have something else to do. So, okay, this is interesting. Usually, or at least a lot of the time, when you see one player has so many critical cards, I remember my gut reaction was to gentlemen's discard this. And that way, Piper kind of stays occupied for another turn. In this case, it's actually detrimental. I don't want to do that, because by doing that, it actually frees Kimby from her obligation to save these black cards. So especially in Double Dark, where we have to be like super primed in to the kind of signals we're giving each other, I'd argue, yeah, I mean, by me discarding this, it's basically begging Kimby to discard her own card. So I really don't want to do that. In fact, yeah, I wrote a note, mild spook. The fact that I did play it and not chop move, or sorry, gentlemen's, it's kind of, nudging Kimby to not discard and do the save. So anyway, kind of subtle, but the reason it's so important, right, is this way, let's say I did just draw any playable card. Let's say it's, I don't know, green 2. Now suddenly, Piper can make sure this card stays safe by bluffing it out. And now, yeah, I mean, this is much preferable, so, yep. But alas, there's nothing to do, no way to save this, nothing to clue. So I think, yeah, this discard especially kind of clues the team in that there's literally nothing else, right? Because I'm sure it was not Piper's ideal clue or action to have to discard and potentially draw something else critical, right? Yeah, now it's definitely time for our Piper's teammates to start discarding aggressively. So sure enough, discard. This one's interesting. I think there's an argument for Piper just cluing blacks here, right? If he wants to avoid discarding again. But I think, without reading his mind, I can see that there is trouble brewing up here. So like, if he clues blacks, I'm going to discard. And now suddenly, Kimby's going to have to take a turn off to save this. Piper saves this. And it's just a mess, right? That's going to end up being 2 more 1-for-1s. And we just don't have the luxury for that. So, yep, I'm sold. This discard looks good. Worst case scenario, he draws another critical. But at least the odds are good that he does have a black 2 in here somewhere. So, sure enough, I am able to finesse the black 1, get the 2. One funny thing about Double Darks is, if you have, 15 cards, if we go back a few turns, if we have 14 cards that are not playable, and we only have a few cards down, it becomes extremely likely, more and more likely, that the cards you're going to draw are going to be playable. So it's very frequent that you'll get this pattern, it seems, of playables coming up from the top of the deck. So I try to do something a little tricky, and here's where the trouble begins. I'd say, I mean, yeah, this has not been the most efficient of starts. We're only at 2.0, and we have a lot of cards to get blind played. So this is exactly the kind of board state where you got to start getting a little spicy and hoping to really bulk up your efficiency while you can, so you can kind of slow down and not be way too far behind for the late game. So the goal with this clue is that obviously Kimby probably has to respect that this could be multi-2, and I'm actually finessing this card. And just by context, there's just no way on earth that this is multi-1, right? Like, this has been in his hand, I think, from the... Okay, not quite from the start, yeah. So this is just patently not multi-1. So by the time... Sorry for the lag. By the time this 2 clue is given, it's absolutely not prompting a multi-1 out of here, right? So anyway, with all that said, what I was expecting would happen is Kimby discards, and then Piper's like, whoa, why is she discarding? It must be because I have a 1, right? Maybe this is red 1, and she thinks it's red 2. Or maybe it's multi-2, and she thinks it's multi-2. In this case, it's like a weird hesitation reverse bluff or something. But regardless, I think it should work, right? Like, obviously she can't bluff this because it might literally already be finessed. So that all said, I did not expect this clue, but I should have actually. I should have suspected this is going to happen. So what this does, from my perspective, and I think Piper's perspective, well, let's say this was just a trash card, and I clue 2s. From the team's perspective, right, maybe Kimby thinks that if she plays this card, well, now what is Piper going to do? All he knows is blacks, so he might just discard. So even if this is a trash card and there's no hesitation going on, this clue actually makes a lot of sense as a tempo clue chop move, right? It's saying, please, Lord, don't discard. Instead, here, have this other card you can play. Yeah, and actually, it's actually even more clever than that, because if this is indeed multi-2, Piper gets to do something really spicy. Piper gets to not play this and instead play this first, which would get this to blind play from priority finesse. So, I mean, yeah, looking back, this clue is awesome, but unfortunately, it does mean maybe there's a little desync because, well, Piper does play the black 3, but now Piano Blue does not respond. Obviously, I'm a little miffed. Yeah, I wrote, heck, I mean, that makes sense. I should have seen this coming. So I'm just going to go ahead and clue 1s. It's still a 2 for 1, so it's fine. I think it does... Well, okay. So now Kimby discards. And now it's this interesting head game, I guess. Like, was this a mistake? Was this a mistake? I remember in review, I agreed that I think after this discard, maybe I should suspect I have black 4. I definitely thought I had some stuff going on. Like, everything going on was a little weird. But, well, especially after the next few turns. So Piper sees that this is waiting for this, so he plays this. Very smart. And now, yeah, so this hand is a mess. And this was actually a great draw. This less so. Less of a great draw. I remember getting very excited when green 2 was drawn, because now it lets me clue green. And it only works because these have -2 on them. So this inverts the focus to the two here. Now, unfortunately for me, Piper draws the green 2 as well. So maybe this is multi-2, maybe it's green 3. Well, obviously, little do I know, I have both the green 3s, but it's not the greatest clue overall. But it does save these cards, and for better or for worse, even if there is some desync, hey, at least it gets 3 cards touched. So Kimby plays this card. I remember now, right. Sorry, it took me a second. So Kimby plays this to priority me, except Piper thinks, well, hold on. If this is known green 2, maybe she should be playing this card to priority all of these. Or if it's multi-2, she should play this to priority this. So a lot of stuff is very unclear right now, but when she plays this, suddenly this plays. And this is just hilarious. Now there's just some wild desync going on. And right, yeah, I think around this point, I was starting to be very suspicious of what was going on in my hand, but I don't think I can just start playing right now. Um, I don't think times are that desperate. Like, yeah, we're actually clawing ourselves out of the hole right now. So I think I did get too spooked. I went too far the other way and thought I needed to fix this because now after this green 2 blind play, now this certainly just looks like green 3. Of course, again, from my perspective, little do I know that that's not at all what was happening. But I thought it was a fix. But now it plays. But Piper decides to cut our losses. I think it's pretty clear now that these are not going to start playing anytime soon. So Piper goes ahead, clues 4, bluffs this. Yep, so like I said, right, thankfully, even though there was some desync, we have managed to kind of sustain our efficiency. Instead of giving some weird 1-for-1s and stuff, we did go wild. Even though we did get a bomb, whatever, there is some desync. At least our efficiency is still high, so it does allow. Now we can afford to give, a couple 1-for-1s if need be. So, okay, play. Like I said, right? We are still waiting for a lot of cards, so it's not surprising that here comes good cards, and we have a lot of clever ways to get random cards from slot 1. So this is a classic one. Trash push here, but I can see it's unnecessary since Piper could just cleanly clue 3, and that would be very easy. He's making things very confusing for the team. The only reason for this to be worthwhile is if I also have a play. So I play. Oh, right. So, yeah, well, so now this is known as a pushed card. This is some playable card. But Kimby decides we need to up the spice levels a little bit. And she discards this card. And I love this clue. It's such like a hedge. It's like, well, we'll see what happens. Because on one hand, it's definitely a shout. It's telling Piper, do not discard. And I think because of all the desync around the black 4, black 3, I think it's possible that this was not chop moved. But on the other hand, it's very possible it is chop moved, in which case now this is getting chop moved. And I think from my perspective now, this was definitely chop moved, right? Because I did not catch on to the prio. So now Kimby just shouted and chop moved trash. So I was like, whoa. This is very strange. Like, this is clearly known playable. She's shouting for trash. So I mark this card as like tentatively. Well, sorry, I should explain what this means. If she's chop moving trash, this is going to be chop moved, and we're going to lose the game because of it. At this point, that can only be a couple things, right? It's basically promised red 4 or yellow 5, maybe, or red 5. So basically, this is telling me if we're all on the same page, and this is what she's trying to do, I should eject this card. And as weird as that is, like, it sort of tracks with the other weirdness that was going on around these 4 clues and the black 3 play and the bombs and the green 2. So anyway, long story short, I just committed at this point to YOLO this card. But before I do that, there's actually an important thing to do. I drop everything else and play the multi-3. And now Kimby can, well, if she plays this yellow 4, it means that these are in this order. But basically, either way, it's a signal to Piper that he has to get playing. So sure enough, Kimby plays the multi-4, which only has priority if it's telling Piper to play this. So that's what happens. And now I go ahead and do the YOLO. I play this. Piper's probably very shocked, but Piper is just on point this game. It was wild. Yeah, he's like, oh well, this was chop moved. Heck, okay. So this was known trash. And hilariously, now I think because of that, it echoes back to this and is now chop moved for sure. So strangely, now we're back in sync. So okay, after all this, Kimby finally blind plays this this from the trash push like 9 turns ago. Piper can play the 5, and now okay, let's see this card. I actually know this is green 3, or sorry, yeah, green 3 or green 4, and if we have any chance of winning, I have to commit to it being green 3. But on the other hand, there's a lot of stuff going on in my teammates' hands, right? Piper has 3 cards, Kimby has 3 cards, so it is definitely not the time for me to play this card. I can see the 3, 4, 5, so in my mind, maybe that could be like literally the last round of the game. But until then, I should be a good teammate and help clear these cards out. So fortunately, I can do a double ignition. If you haven't seen this before, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, if Kimby's hand was all trash, I don't know, I could still just give this fine clue, right? So by me doing a burn clue, it's telling Kimby, well, it must mean something more. It must mean I don't want to just clue something here or here, because actually, by doing a bad thing, it's actually getting both cards. Sorry if you've seen that before, but I think if you haven't seen this clue, it just looks like weird gobbledygook. And honestly, that is the point of the clue, yes. It only works because it is a hurdy-dur, useless clue. So, okay, so once again, I could play this, but let's get these playing. Fortunately, because this was already chop moved, this 5 clue is not a save. It's actually a play clue on this 4. So now play, Piper can play, and now sure enough, at long last, I can play this 3. So we're down to the wire. Piper has 2 plays. Kimby's got 1 play. I have to pray I have a play. But really the only way out is for Kimby to play. Yeah, so fortunately, YOLO, we got there. And whew, very wild game. It's always, I feel like it's extra fun to win a game after, you know, the wild ride of desync. And I think the risks in desync we imposed on ourselves were kind of measured. They were intentional risks, because I think if we went with the less wild ride, it would have been overall less efficient. And as you can see, like we just barely had it at the end. Like it's like, yeah, current efficiency 1.5. So every clue counts sometimes. So anyway, GG. Hope you enjoyed.